Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Pros podcast by Investor Fuel. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show we have Charles Rashid. Charles is a full cycle real estate investor with 30 years in real estate. He is a commercial investor, lender, and coach. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dylan. Nice to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So when I first got started in real estate about 2 years ago, people talked about you haven't seen everything until you're a full cycle investor. And so you're a full cycle investor and then some. So you've seen the ups and the downs multiple times. But tell me about your first deal, how you got in. We talked a little bit about before the show started, but tell us about that first deal.
Sure. So I wasn't a great student growing up. I was always interested and motivated by money. And so I started looking around at all my friends and my dad's friends that were financially successful and wealthy. And I realized they all had a common theme. They all invested in real estate, owned real estate in some form or fashion. So I decided I was going to be a landlord. And I started looking at real estate. I bought Dave Deldato's real estate investing course, and he was like the painter that lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, came from nothing. And so I got the basics there, and then I went to work, and there was no apps so I would circle the newspaper ads, drive around, make phone calls, crunch the numbers, and I probably made over 100 offers before I got my first offer accepted. It was an 8-unit apartment building that I bought with no money down. The rents were low, $280 to $300 a piece, central air, 2-bedroom, 1 bath each. This was, 1991. The owner, I happen to know them. Their son went to school with me, and I just made them an offer that they take a second for the down payment. I got a pre-approval letter from the bank, and I owned the piece of property. I think I walked away with $5,000 for improvements at closing, but I literally didn't know anything about real estate at that time. The first phone call I got was a leaky toilet, and I had to go figure out how to fix a toilet, and just nonstop learning, but got in the trenches, and I've loved it ever since. I mean, not one day has gone by that I don't get excited about real estate.
For our Gen Z people listening, this was before YouTube. This is before TikTok, before Instagram. Charles had to crank out a book and learn how to get into this deal here. Charles, where did you at 20 years old? Most people are trying to get in later, and they're struggling to get in, trying to figure out how they can do it. Where did you have the courage, the wherewithal to say, I'm going to take an 8-unit apartment deal down? And was it in your blood? Did you have mentors? How did you go about that?
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Well, yes, I did have mentors. Like I said, I bought that course from Dave Delgado. I have a couple friends that are older than me. They were about 5 years ahead of me in the process, and they had a couple of apartments. So I could bounce ideas off them. And, at the time, I think minimum wage was like $3.35 an hour. So to me, it wasn't a risk. It was like, it's a risk not to move forward. The rents were under market. I immediately raised them to $325 a month. I mean, I think the average now is probably not nationwide. It's probably over 2,000, but I'm in West Virginia, and it's probably $1,000 a month. Just little things like that. And when you were talking about going to read a book to figure it out, there was no YouTube. I literally went to Lowe's, looked at the DIY book to figure out what it was that I was trying to figure out, whether it was changing an outlet or soldering some copper pipes. PEX wasn't around then, or fixing a leaky toilet. And then I'd go back and just struggle through it and fix it, painting it. I learned the entire thing from necessity.
From real world experience. You have a plan until you get punched in the face. So that's a heck of a way to start. When you went ahead and got that deal under contract, it was no money out of pocket, like you had said. How did that deal get structured?
So I went to a bank and found out what I could get approved on based on the rents. They loaned me 75% of the purchase price. I think I bought it for $175, and the owner took back a second for $40,000 or $50,000, and the bank financed the balance on a first deed of trust. So I had a mortgage with the bank. I don't remember the numbers now, and then a mortgage with the seller that I paid them monthly at $300 or something a month for 15 years. I later, after I fixed them up, got them all rented, got the rents increased, paved the driveway, replaced windows, whatever needed replaced. Over time, I did it. And then about 7 years after I owned it, I called the sellers and I said, hey, would you take, 60 cents on the dollar? And at the time, they said they were in a position to do that. So I paid them off, refinanced the property, owned it for 20 or 25 years. It was a great piece of property. And it taught me. I've often thought about going back and buying it again for nostalgic purposes.
That could be your album cover, the trend where you put your first home on the album, and it's got the adult advisory in the bottom corner. But the fact that your first deal was a creative deal where you didn't come out of pocket, these deals for our newcomers. You see it all over now, no money, you can get into real estate, cash for keys, this type of deal. But this wasn't, I can't imagine it was popularized back then. So how did you educate? Was it in your
That was still, it was a thing back then.
Okay. You had to get into the books.
Yeah, there's a author, Robert G. Allen. He has multiple streams of income, and he did a challenge back in the 80s. You can drop me in any city with $100, and within 3 days, I'll own a piece of property. And so it was out there. It was definitely challenging, and like I said, I've made over 100 written offers just to get that right seller in the right position to do it.
Yeah.
And ever since, I've done most of my deals that way, including a $10 million commercial project just a few years ago with no money down. And to this day, my banks and the seller always say, you can't get that done. And I'm like, You
Watch
can get
me.
it done. It's not to say it's not challenging, but it's possible for sure. You find the right motivated seller, you find the right bank that you have a good relationship with, and you have the right path forward or the right plan for the property that makes sense, and you can make it happen.
I could talk about this first deal all day, so I don't want to take up more of your time with that. But I do have one last question, which is you're writing 100 offers, but with some training, but it's not like you've done this a whole bunch of times before. What were you using as a guide to write these offers? Just the what you saw in the books?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Partly trial and error. I had an uncle in New York. I had an uncle in New York that was a realtor. I mean, an attorney. So at first, he gave me all this language, and that was just like squashed immediately. But I learned, okay, there's a few things here and there that I'd like to do. And the bottom line was if I could get it financed and I had an out in case there was a problem, those were the things that I really wanted because I didn't want to get stuck or get hurt.
Yeah.
And so, and it was just literally trial and error. It started from like a 7-page addendum of all the crap that nobody even looked at because it was trying to tie it up so tightly to, okay, I'll buy it as is with a couple contingencies.
We went through everything, 100 offers. It's funny because that's actually what I'm doing right now. Is not probably not 100, but like 60 to 80 a month on a personal note. But fast forward a little bit to I guess today or maybe not today, but for the last couple of years, you mentioned an interesting strategy for folks who are maybe having a home that's sitting and that involves Airbnb, which I hadn't heard in that great detail. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So over the years, I became a money lender to folks flipping houses. I have some partners that were flipping about 100 houses a year. We together own 300 or 400 houses that we're buying and holding now long term. But they had 4 or 5 houses that were just sitting on the market for months at a time. And before I get into it, I don't love the idea of flipping houses. I like it in conjunction with buy and hold and some commercial, but to me, it's just you're working hard all the time for that one-time payout. And I was always a believer of buy and hold, using leverage, using the tax system for depreciation, allowing your tenants to build your equity for you and make the payments, writing off all the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to get them into buying and holding more often, but they had these 5 houses that were just killing their one. It wouldn't free up their availability from their lenders to go do more deals. They had $1 million tied up in 5 houses. So I said, let's just stage them. Let me stage them. And I've done some YouTube videos about them. Let me stage the house. So I bought all the furniture. I took all the risk. I put them on the Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Expedia, hotels, all those sites. And we started generating like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. I subtracted the utilities. They paid the utilities, which I paid for. They paid for, their mortgage and everything. And then we split the difference. I took 60% of what I generated. And I had a contract that if it sold immediately, then I would just get a percentage of the purchase price to recoup my furniture expense and the time I put in. But the benefits to them and how I sold it to them was you have this property that's kind of tired. It's been on the market. Realtors are overlooking it. They might walk in and there's cobwebs on the door, or rat droppings, or a leaky faucet or something that they didn't expect, HVAC not working. So I'm like, I'll keep the yard manicured. I'll have it cleaned after every guest. So every week it's going to be in perfect condition to show the property. It's going to be staged. I hang pictures on the wall. I set the dining room table. I mean, it really looks, they look nice and fully staged, but without the expense of paying a staging company. And here in West Virginia, we don't have a staging company. So, without exception, all 5 of these houses sold within 5 months. And it was a matter of giving the buyer or the potential buyer that vision of how it would look, how it lays out, how it flows. And sometimes we sold all the property with it, which was a bonus.
Is the seller, I'm assuming, maybe initially unaware that they could Airbnb out their home in the process of selling it? How is that process
Yeah.
being presented to them?
Well, it depends on the city and the ordinance and all that if it's allowed. But yeah, it just was a concept that I was speaking to 400 realtors in California, and the same concept goes for them. Give yourself a competitive advantage as a realtor. A house is maybe too expensive on the market, so every realtor wants to walk past it because they just see it's going to sit forever. But if you can bring this added value, earn some commission in the meantime, get it staged, help the seller offset their expenses on a dead asset and get it sold, then that's a great twist. But as far as your question about is it legal or could they do it? I mean, again, it goes back to the ordinance of the city and if it's allowed, which most cities it is allowed. You get a rental license, but it's just a matter of thinking outside the box and how to maximize your profit potential. And I'm all about if I got a dead asset, let's get rid of it or figure out a way for it to make money. I rent cars on Turo. I rent real estate. Everything I do is about renting it to somebody else to have them pay for it and allow me to use it when I want.
And for our listeners, the avatar of our listener is someone who's doing 50 plus deals a year, but we also have some newcomers. And there's 2 things that I want to hit on that Charles pointed out. First is that if you're a fix and flipper, or if you aspire to be a fix and flipper, hold on to some property. Hold on to some property. I've interviewed, guests now, and we have some other podcast hosts who are doing the same for Real Estate Pros. And the biggest regret for every single guest, almost to a T, is I wish I held some rentals. I wish I didn't sell. And going back like 20 years or sometimes more, you look at how much, yeah, they sold it for a $20,000 profit then, but look at what it would be worth now. And it's real wealth, And so you touched on that, saying like this process, it's like, catch and release almost. It's burn fast. You're doing something other than what, the real estate game seems to be about. I mean, for sure there's fix and flippers, but when you're talking about building wealth to that degree, it's not in that necessarily.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, I didn't even touch on the appreciation aspect of it. So most fix and flippers have short-term loans, construction loans, hard money loans. So once you get it fixed, everything you've done to the property, so you're not going to have issues. You got new appliances with warranties. You got probably new HVAC, new electric, new roof. You're not going to have any maintenance for 5+ years. You go to a bank, you get a traditional investment loan on 20 years, 25 years, and then you rent it either short-term, mid-term, or long-term. The tenant pays all your bills. They put the utilities in their name. They build equity for you over time. You get all the appreciation. It's just a win-win. I mean, yeah, you can't. It's hard to live on that, but if you take 10% of your flips, the ones in the right location, the right properties, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or something that's easily sold at any time. If you get in a bind, it's a no-brainer in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I said this before we hopped on. The AMG looks nice, but the AMG is pretty expensive in a downturn. So you wanna hold on to, like Charles said, 10%. And again, it's the biggest regret. It's the biggest regret that I hear. But going back to the Airbnb model, this is another thing that stuck out to me is agility. You have to have some level of agility in this game. You can't be doing necessarily, and I think it's very rare that someone does the same thing for 20 years in real estate. It's just rare. It's just rare. What I've seen, having done these podcasts now, is the typical trajectory. This is not carte blanche, but this is what I see: is people will go from learning about it, not sure how to get in, networking, probably making some mistakes, wholesaling, which is pretty common now, getting their first deal, doing fix and flips, and then scaling that. Sometimes, and I've heard this too, people get burnt out, or they take a big loss, and then maybe that's some cold water that they don't wanna get into again, and it kind of burns them out. But if it doesn't scare them away and they can lick their wounds, get back up, they get into commercial, they get into note buying, or they become a landlord themselves. And you're a coach. So I'm curious what your perspective is on kind of the trajectory of the real estate to career, and also talk about that agility that you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah. So first of all, times change, economies change, interest rates change. So you have to be willing and able to pivot, because what worked 30 years ago, it may still work now, but I'm seeing a lot of guys now getting stuck with the interest rates triple from where they were. Now the property doesn't cash flow. It's not moving as fast. It's not worth as much. So having that ability to pivot, I think is key. You mentioned commercial property. I caution people on commercial property. It can be great when it has a triple net national tenant, but when they go out and you got a big box empty, I mean, it can bankrupt you real quick.
Mm.
There's a lot more risk involved. It's once you get a tenant that pays, you're golden. It's the best thing on earth, but it can go south. We have a grant here. I'm just finishing up a brand new construction flip that I'm doing. I got a $35,000 grant through our city of Charleston, West Virginia, and it's great. It helps offset the cost, and it's basically just drops right to the bottom line. As far as Airbnb, I grew up in the hotel business. I've worked in every single department in a hotel, so I know how it works. And I thought, I kept hearing about Airbnb back in a decade ago. I'm like, if I took my knowledge from the hotel business and kind of turned it towards the Airbnbs, I think I could really dominate the market. Just simple things like revenue management. Most guys on Airbnb just set their property at $100 a night, and they're cleaning at $50 a night or $100 a night, and then they forget about it. But what they don't realize is there's going to be days that holidays or events in the city that they can command 3 times as much rent
Yep.
per night. And then there's also going to be days that it's dead, middle of the week in the middle of winter, that they're not going to get anything. So I look at the calendar every year, every single event, every holiday, double or triple my rent. The slow season, I drop it in half or less. So I maximize my occupancy and also maximize it's called RevPAR, revenue per available room.
Rather selfishly, I have a specific question about doing this remotely. Myself, and I think a lot of people want to know, and there's differing opinions on this. I've heard both sides. Is it really feasible for the investor that's seasoned, but they've been doing their process in person, meaning they're there, they have people on the ground, but they're there. Is it feasible for them to do this remotely if they want to move, if they want to move out of the country, right? If they're like, hey, I'm moving to, Argentina. I'm moving to Argentina. I like the culture over there. How can I do that? And I've heard two perspectives. Number one, you have to have processes and people in place. And the other perspective is you really can't. Like, it's a very limited group of people who can do that. And you basically, that has to be your thing. Your thing has to be processes and people. What's your perspective on that?
No, I disagree with that. You absolutely can do it. And I'm kind of more old school. I have all the processes and systems in place, but they're really more in my head. I'm not as diligent as I should be. If you have the people in place, I have Airbnbs and vacation rentals in 6 or 7 cities, and I manage them very, very limited part time from my phone. It takes me less than 5 minutes a day. You have to have a cleaner. You have to have somebody that you can trust, a trusted cleaner and a trusted maintenance person. And then with the internet, I can monitor, the property by cameras outside. I can monitor the HVAC system by a Nest or something that's Wi-Fi enabled. And you have a water detection, leak detection system. You can absolutely manage it from afar, never touching the property. Now, I haven't done it in other countries. There's a whole nother level of complications there with other governments and that kind of thing. But there's no reason why you couldn't do it. The key is just having people that are on the ground that you can rely on.
Where do you see as the future of Airbnb? I know it's hard to predict the future, but we've seen, I know I'm in DFW, the greater Dallas area. When I was here a year ago, I was in Addison, and there was a lot of talk that in Addison specifically, they were gonna, either they did or they were going to disallow Airbnb specifically. Where do you see is the future of Airbnb? Because it's such an interesting model.
So I love it because you can triple the amount of revenue you get from a piece of property. I tell my students never buy a piece of property based on the revenue of what Airbnb will generate, because tomorrow the laws can change and then you're out. So analyze the deal as if it's a long-term rental. If the numbers work that way, then you're going to be in great shape and you'll be very happy.
Yeah.
As far as like the future, even if it's not disallowed, there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be people that get tired of it. They're not going to do as well. They're not going to keep it as clean. And those are going to fall to the wayside because they're going to get bad reviews. People are going to stop staying there. And then there's going to be people that really do a nice job, keep it clean, keep it well decorated, communicate properly, and that kind of thing. What I love about short-term rentals is I have units that are $59 a night, and I have units that are $4,000 a night. Everybody on the socioeconomic level needs a place to stay when they travel. So it's not just, you don't have to pick only a slum or only a super high-end vacation home. Everything in between. And it's just like in the hotel business that, hotels come and go all the time. They're brand new, they're demanding a lot, and then over time they kind of deteriorate, and then they go to a lower tier franchise, and then ultimately they get torn down and built something new on. And it's the same kind of cycle with Airbnb. They're still wear and tear. You got to replace the furniture, but the money's worth it. And if you get that system down and that process, I just train my people up front what to do, the order to do it in, because even cleaning will, if they do it in the proper order, they can cut their time in half.
Yep.
But if you're diligent on that kind of thing, and ease of use from the customer standpoint, I have keypads. One example, keypads on all my doors. Batteries die sometimes. I always have a lockbox with a hard key in it. When they have a problem at 2 a.m, it takes me 2 seconds in a text to fix the problem instead of calling a locksmith or sending somebody out there. And so just little things like that over time you learn.
There also
But
seems to be some degree of uh, there is a trade-off, right? So you do have to be more active in managing it to some degree if you don't if you're new to it. But you also don't have to worry about evicting people, or almost never, unless you have some fringe scenario. You don't have to worry about that. So, do you feel like, on the whole, the properties are kept in a better condition than if you would have rented them out?
For the most part, yes. We have some construction workers that'll come and stay for 6 or 8 months, and they're very hard on properties, but
Yeah.
they also don't mind paying, and I'll get uh, 3, 4, 5,000 a month for just a regular 3 bedroom, 2 bath house that I would normally get 70, $89 a night for, and they'll stay for months. I bought a
Right.
house from HUD for $40,000, put 11 in it, and my first tenant stayed for 11 months, paid me like $72,000 first
On
year.
Airbnb.
Yeah, through Airbnb.
See, there's some really specific Airbnb questions here. So for folks who are not involved in Airbnb, these are the type of things that you'll have to decide on. Like, are you going to allow pets? Are you going to allow one night stays? When your calendar is completely vacant, are you going to freak out and lower price, which you can? But just like Charles is talking about here, and I've seen it here in Denton, Texas, a vacant calendar could land a monster booking. Talking about, most of the year. So you get a notification on your phone. You're like, oh, wow, I just got a 2-month booking on
Yeah.
this property that I didn't think, people weren't interested in. So, as far as Airbnb goes, an empty calendar can sometimes be a good thing.
So that's another thing that I teach is keep your price high, higher than everybody else for that very reason. So the calendar's open long term so that one person, that traveling nurse or a doctor or a construction worker that needs to be there for 6 months will pay the full boat. And then within a week or two, if you don't get any bookings, drop the price. It's just like an airline or an empty hotel room. It's a disappearing asset. When that day's over, it's gone forever. You already have the utilities, you already have the mortgage payment or the rent, and so it takes a little bit to get used to get it set up and learn from your mistakes. But over time, I like it. I still have 24 active ones. I've been doing it for 7 years. I'm still in it because I like to only teach what I've proven
Yeah.
and how it works. So I love Airbnb. I think it's great. Any short-term rental, not just, we all say Airbnb, it's kind of like the Kleenex of
The
tissue,
only
but
one, yeah.
there's so many booking sites anymore. Um, and I'll tell you another way that I maximize my properties is I'm involved in a company called Third Home Exchange. So that $4,000 night house I have, it's at a really nice resort near here. I put that into Third Home, and I trade a week of my house there for a week of a house in the system, which they have 11,000 homes around the world. So we travel around the world in these multi-million-dollar homes that cost us $1,000 a week plus a week
It's
at our
called
house.
Third Home.
Third Home.
I've never
Yeah,
heard of it,
and
but I love the idea.
there's three different ones. The Club, which is a really high-end deal. Third Home, and then I think it's Home Swap, or I can't recall the last name, but they're like 300,000 homes of just people. Like if you live in Paris, you're going on vacation for a week, you want to rent your house or swap it for somebody in New York, you just put it on this site. And it's just one more way to use that property that you have to enjoy traveling.
Yeah.
So it works well for us.
We're coming up on time here, Charles, but before we head off, I do want to ask a little bit about Turo, because I mentioned before we started that I was a car business guy. Couldn't make it to the box, couldn't make it to F&I, the finance officer. So I ended up trying my hand in real estate. I'm glad I did. But how did you get into Turo? Are you car? You just
Yeah.
love cars, or how did that
Yeah.
happen?
So I've been a new car dealer since '07. I've been a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Suzuki, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Vespa, Aprilia, Piaggio, Club Car uh, dealer. So I've been a new car dealer for over 15 years. I just recently sold them. And I've just always loved cars. I still have some used car lots, an RV lot, a motorcycle lot. And I just like the concept of renting things. Like I said earlier, having somebody else pay for an asset that I want. And so I started Turo about 2 years ago. I just went it all in, started a rental car company, got all the licenses. Turo is just one avenue that I use. I rent them directly as well. And it's kind of the same thing as Airbnb.
Yeah.
Finding out there's a lot of errors and, learning over time. You learn the stuff. You do, tips and tricks. It is more intensive. You have to clean the car.
I've heard that. Yeah.
After every guest, you got to find the thing. You can't, they can steal it, which I've had happen. They can wreck it. I like it. I think at this point, I'm about 3 years in, and I'm just about doubling my money every year from my investment.
Wow.
So I like it a lot, but it is more intensive. And I wouldn't put something in the rental system that I love, because it will get destroyed. It's just, it's a rental car. And
It is a rental car.
I wouldn't buy anything out of my budget starting. I started with two, $25,000, $35,000 cars. Now I buy the $3,000 to $10,000 cars, and the return is much, much better.
I love it. I was thinking about putting my 2018 Dodge Challenger RT Plus on there. But Charles, how can people get a hold of you?
So the easiest way is my website, charlesrashid.com, CharlesRashid.com.
Well, folks, you heard it there. You can start with your first deal from 100 offers at the end of the day, owning multiple dealerships, selling them, doing some Turo coaching, Airbnb. That can be your story too. So this is another episode of the Real Estate Pros podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Silver. Until next time, see ya.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.